All across the globe, banks are going cashless. Humans are implanting microchips under their skin, and nations are using national IDs to track, control, and punish their citizens. The question is, why? To answer that question, we will discuss the ominous prophecy of the mark of the beast on today's edition of End of the Age. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with Endtime Ministries. Thank you for joining me on Tuesday's edition of End of the Age. I want to talk to you real quick before we get started about your end of the year giving. Today marks the beginning of the end of the year charitable giving season. And since 2019 could be the most important prophetic year yet, people consider giving, please consider giving and placing end time at the top of your giving. We've got a lot of big plans for next year that we want to do. I mean, we could see a peace agreement next year. We could see World War III begin, if it hasn't already begun, and come to pass. So a lot of things coming down the pike. Now, I'm not excited about that necessarily, but at the end of the day, if you look on God's prophetic timeline, there are two prophecies that could begin and end next year specifically, along with all of the ongoing fulfillment of prophecy. So if you're considering giving a charitable gift this time of year, a tax-exempt gift, consider end time. We've got a lot of big plans for next year. God has called us to a huge harvest field, and we're asking you to please join us over the next year. And I'm sure God will bless you as a result, and only eternity will tell the results of your charitable giving. So thank you as you give charitably by the end of the year. Now, we're going to talk today about the mark of the beast. And I want to get off into the prophecy part of it first and then go into some current events, maybe in the latter half. I'll try to get to them in the first half of the program, but we'll see how far we get off into the prophecy segment first. Then I'll get off into some current events towards the latter part. So the mark of the beast, the entire chapter of Revelation 13 is devoted to end time issues. Verses 1 through 8 describe the one world government system and its leader and the mastermind behind it all. Verses 11 through 14, that illustrates the one world religious system and the ruler of the religious system, the false prophet. And then finally, Revelation 13, 16 through 18 deals with the one world economic system, commonly referred to as the mark of the beast. So in order to understand the prophecy, I want to define some of the segments of the prophecy and who or what will fulfill that specific event. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to focus on the world religion or the false prophet, although I've just got some awesome information about the Pope and being the leader maybe of a one world church type situation. Maybe I'll go through that Thursday if I have time, but I'm not going to focus on the world religious stuff today, just the world government and the mark of the beast. So the beast in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 8, and it's talking about the world government, and it says this, "And I stood upon the sands of the sea, saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of the bear, his mouth as the mouth of the lion. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and his great authority. And I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after this beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave the power unto the beast, And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Many of you are very familiar with this prophecy. And it goes on to say, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. I've had people over the years say, well, can the Antichrist will there be a chance for him to repent and be saved at the end? No, he's blasphemed God all throughout his reign as the Antichrist. And to blaspheme God, that's an unpardonable sin. The Bible says, and to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell therein. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given unto him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. So it's going to be a world government. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So the beast in these verses symbolizes the last day world government along with its ruler. I've had people say, well, it's only referring to one beast. No, it's referring to both of them. If you read through the scriptures carefully, it's referring to the world government and the ruler of that world government. And so we're talking today about the mark of the beast. I'm going through Revelation 13. And when we get back from the break, I'm going to describe a little bit more about the Antichrist, the leader of this world governing body, and then we'll get off into his economic system, commonly referred to as the mark of the beast.
In 2018, we've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries has continued to reveal Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or our online Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital, timely materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we have continued to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. As we move into 2019, we will see prophecies coming to pass at an even swifter pace. We will continue to see the preparation for a one-world government system and even more media censorship for Christians and outside thought. Because of this, we need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast, produce materials, and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or to give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 1-800-363-8463. Your call says you care about the message of the end time and the gospel to reach others. Please call or go online now to give your best end of the year gift. It will truly make a difference. Thank you for your support. Please call or go online right away.
I have left a piece of my heart in Israel and her people. We would like to thank Endtime for doing such an awesome job with our Israel tour. We had the privilege to rub shoulders with Pastor Baxter. He is wonderful. Helene from Australia. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter May 2nd through 17th, 2019 for the Ultimate Israel Tour experience with a Greek island cruise. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to sign up today.
So, in talking about the world government, the leader of that world government, and his economic sanctioning system that he will establish, this beast in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 8, the beast had the body of the leopard, the feet of the bear, the mouth of the lion, the 10 horns of the 10-horn kingdom, and these same beasts, which symbolize separate kingdoms back in Daniel 7, 650 years prior, in Revelation 13, they're all merged into one single kingdom and through the process of globalization. Now, these modern nations, and many of you will definitely want to get a copy of this next issue, the Jan-Feb issue of Endtime magazine, because Irvin Baxter is writing a really, really very detailed, great article on globalization and what's going on right now in the world. And man, it's a really good article, so you'll definitely want to get a copy of that, just as a side note. So these modern nations in Revelation 13, Germany, it's the leopard, Russia, the bear, Great Britain, the lion, and the 10-nation alliance, the 10 horns from the reborn Holy Roman Empire, the European Union. We know that these entities will be part of this world governing system. The 10-nation union will eventually merge into the world governing system. And you've heard us talk about that recently with Macron bringing together this 10-nation military alliance, which could be the 10 horns in Revelation 13 and Daniel 7. So the nations included in this world government beast, they form the kingdom that will be ruled by the Antichrist during the final 3.5 years, immediately preceding the second coming of Jesus Christ. It's just ahead of us now. Daniel 7:25 describes the 3.5 year period like this. He said, "And he, the Antichrist, shall speak great words against the Most High, shall wear out the saints of the Most High." It's the same thing in Revelation 13. "And think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and the dividing of time." It's the 3.5 year period. Same exact thing, just different terminology. Revelation 13:5 explains the same event, but in a different way. "And there was given unto him, the Antichrist, a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Power was given unto him to continue 42 months. It's the exact same thing. 42 months, time, times, and the dividing of time are the same amount of time, which is 3.5 years. And, you know, though we don't know who the Antichrist is at this time, there will come a day when we will. Absolutely, we will be able to recognize him. There are over 50 specific prophecies about the Antichrist in the Bible. So, when the writers of the Bible, they wrote these prophecies that were given to them by God, they wanted there to be no doubt who this man was. They're very specific prophecies. So the beast in Revelation 13 is referring to both the future one world government and the ruler of that entity, the Antichrist. Now you say, well, who's the dragon? Because the dragon's the driver behind all of this, the mastermind. So the identity of the dragon, it's mentioned in Revelation 13, is revealed back one chapter back, Revelation 12:9. And who's the mastermind behind the one world government that gives it its power? Well, its seat or the throne and its great authority. Well, it states this. It says, "And the dragon was cast out, and that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." So the dragon is Satan. And he gives the Antichrist and the one world governing system its power. If you wonder who's behind the effort to establish a one world government in the earth today, it is the globalists that are seeking a one world government, but the driver behind all, the mastermind, keeping it all moving in one direction in every nation is Satan. So, but however, his ultimate goal is to get everyone on earth to worship him. He's establishing a world government. The Antichrist is going to rule that, but Satan's goal is to get everyone to worship him. And it's always been his desire for people to worship him and not God. That's the goal. God said back in Deuteronomy chapter 6 that, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and him only shalt thou serve." And when Satan heard that, he's been trying to, because he hates God, he hates everything about God, he's been trying to get everybody to serve him rather than God and to worship him rather than God. Do you remember when Satan tried to get Jesus Christ to worship him? He actually offered Jesus the job of the Antichrist or dominion over the whole world in an effort to get him to fall down and to worship him. It's in Matthew chapter 4, verse 8 through 10. And it says, "Again, the devil taketh him up on an exceeding high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. And he said unto him, All of these things will I give you if you will fall down and worship me. Of course, Jesus said back to him, "Get thee hence, Satan, for it's written, thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve." So Jesus was put through this test as well. He was tempted by Satan to worship him. And that same scenario is what Satan is going to do through the Antichrist. Satan is not going to show up someday in your bedroom and say, "Worship me." His goal is to set up this world government and have the Antichrist rule over it and have people worship this individual. In doing so, you'll be worshiping Satan because that's his kingdom. Satan's going to give the Antichrist power over all the earth, just like he offered to Jesus. And so to worship or pledge allegiance to the Antichrist will be to worship the dragon or Satan himself. So it's something you absolutely can never do. Think about worship in Revelation 13. Notice that the word worshipped or worship is found in Revelation chapter 13 5 times. And remember, this Revelation 13 is devoted to the world government, the leader of that world government, the mastermind behind it all, Satan himself, the world religion, the leader of the world religion, the false prophet, and the economic system that will be used by the Antichrist to economically sanction individuals to bow down and conform to his will. That's what the Revelation chapter 13 is devoted to. And the word worship is mentioned in that chapter 5 times. The original Greek word for worship there is used in the chapter is proskuneo, which means kneeling to do homage or a formal public acknowledgement of a feudal allegiance. So again, Satan, as the mastermind behind the system, just like he did to Jesus, he will endeavor to, his goal is going to be for people on earth to bow their knee as a formal public acknowledgement or allegiance to him. A pledge of allegiance to the Antichrist or the one world governing system will be to worship Satan. It's very important. And so then the question becomes, well, what is the mark of the beast? And how do you worship it? Well, Revelation 13, 16 through 18 states this: "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in the forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the number of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, it's one of the most recognizable prophecies in the Bible. Everybody knows about, if they've never been to church, somehow or another they know about the mark of the beast, 666. It's a very ominous prophecy, because to take this is to subject yourself to eternal damnation. And the Bible's very clear on that. So during the final 3.5 years before the second coming of Jesus Christ, during the Great Tribulation, the Antichrist is going to require every person to have their own unique identification number. And this is very important to when I get some of these current event articles here in just a moment. He's going to require everyone to have their own unique identification number. In order to get your number, everyone will have to worship or pledge allegiance to the Antichrist and his global governing system. However, everyone who takes the mark and pledges allegiance to the Antichrist is going to be eternally damned. So it is absolutely imperative. It's more than imperative. I mean, there's nothing more important that we understand the prophecy and remain aware of future events. Make sure, number one, you're born again, you're ready to go. Number two, you absolutely cannot take the mark of the beast. Don't ever pledge allegiance to the mark of the beast, to the Antichrist or his one world governing system, and never take a mark of identification on your person anywhere. A chip in your hand, an invisible tattoo, a mark on your forehead, anything. You cannot take a mark of identification on your person, and you can't pledge allegiance to the Antichrist or his one world governing system. So, This is the economic system that will be set up to cause everyone, and this is going to be set up on a global scale. And it's going to be set up to cause everyone to conform to the global governing edicts of the Antichrist. Now, we know, because I understand the prophetic timeline that God gave us in the Bible, that this system is just a few years away now. And we are watching precursors to this system. In other words, the Antichrist is not going to come on the scene at the abomination of desolation and then say, okay, I'm going to set up a system to economically sanction individuals. That's not going to happen. The system's already going to be set up. He's just going to usurp authority over that, claim authority, and say, hey, I'm going to use this system to economically sanction people, because it's only going to be for 3.5 years. So what we're watching now is that system is being set up in the earth as we speak. And when I say that, I know that everyone living here in America, we kind of live in a bubble. I talked to our guide in Israel about it, and we were saying that the Americans kind of live in a bubble compared to the rest of the world. And we really do. I mean, really, people here in America, most everybody lives like a king compared to most people on the planet. And I've been a lot of places, and there are some nice places around, but most people on the planet as a whole don't live as good as we do here in America. And we're very blessed by God. I know that. But we kind of live in a bubble because a lot of things are happening around the world, and we get information from all over the world about stuff that's going on. People will write us in and say, hey, have you guys seen this? These guys are issuing this new national ID card, and this is happening, or my business is chipping us, or I get information from everywhere. And we're watching precursors to this system that's already being set up that the Antichrist will take control of in the near future and use that system to economically sanction people. So let me give you some examples of current events that's going on right now. And these are precursors to the system that's being set up. It's being established in the world as we speak. Now, you can't go to somebody who's doing it and say, are you guys setting up the system of the mark of the beast? They'd look at you and go, what? Most people don't have a clue that this is the mark of the beast. That's not how it's being rolled out. It's being rolled out as a numbering system to help control or to help manage individuals through migration, through access to goods and services and different things. That's how it's being rolled out, as kind of like a management system. But there are nations that are using it to control and to also punish their citizens. And that's where we're headed, is absolute control. So the Zero Hedge reported that Sweden is on the verge of going completely cashless. And their question was, what could possibly go wrong? Now, you've heard us talk about cashless societies for a long time. Well, there's a reason why nations want to go cashless. Sweden is rapidly turning into a total cashless society. They're way down the pike on this. And it seems like the utopian dream of a government, the government idea to control their people. If you can get everybody dependent upon a digital economy that the government controls, the government could say jump, and you got to say how high or they'll invalidate your number. So the question in this article was, what could possibly go wrong from the government's point of view? Isn't it ideal that they could soon digitally control every single person in the country? Now think about that. That's never been possible until the invention of the computer and the invention of the internet. This system was never possible. Over the last 2,000 years when the prophecy was given, until the invention of the computer and the internet, it was never possible. But it's absolutely possible now. Sweden is the most cashless society on the planet. And the change to a cashless society is happening very fast in the European economy. No cash accepted signs are becoming an increasingly common sight in shops and eateries across Sweden as payments go digital and mobile. A lot of that's happening here in the United States as well. A lot of people that I know, the majority of everybody listening to me would say that they use their debit card or a credit card instead of cash. I do the same thing. Now, Irvin likes to use, unless we travel and things, 9 times out of 10, they'll pay with cash. But myself, my wife, most of our family, we use debit cards to pay for things. It's just a lot easier. Whip out your credit card, keep on going. I'm sure that if I talked to most of you personally, you would say the same thing. Well, Sweden is widely regarded as the most cashless society on the planet. Most of the country's banks, their branches have stopped handling cash. Now think about that. Many shops, they're banks, but they're ending handling cash. Many shops, museums, restaurants, they only accept plastic or mobile payments. About half of Sweden's 1,400 banks, their branches no longer accept cash deposits. You get paid from your job, it's got to be an electronic deposit. And it's more or less impossible because the banks refuse to take cash. Now think about that. And of course, there are concerns of governmental control, which hence my program today, Precursors to the Mark of the Beast, already establishing this system that will be used to implement the Mark of the Beast. Imagine if the globe went cashless. Think about that. There are efforts by many nations to go cashless right now. And so here in Sweden, they're talking about, what do we do? And it's very important that we talk about it because it's a precursor to the Mark of the Beast. And it's very concerned. The government is concerned about some things, but it's not about control. It's about something totally different. We'll talk about it when we get back.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctor's offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
So, of course, the question comes up, well, is there concerns of government control in a situation like this where you have a completely cashless society and the government's in control of that? Well, of course there are concerns. I mean, it seems rather ironic that it's the government pointing out the possibility of trouble with government control in a cashless society, especially since they're considering rolling out a new digital currency called the e-krona. The central bank has plans, now this is Sweden, the central bank has plans to roll out a pilot version next year of a new type of Riksbank money, the digital krona or e-krona, that could replace physical cash or at least help calm the current cash conundrum. And e-krona would mean that the functions of the currency backed by the state, that's scary, backed by the state, would remain even in an all-digital world that is fast approaching. Now, Christine Lagarde, many of you will recognize her. She's the managing director of the International Monetary Fund. She said last week that several central banks are seriously considering digital currencies. You know, most nations around the earth have a central bank. Ours is the Federal Reserve. So just imagine this. If the government, even here in the United States, think about it, if it was happening here. Remember, I said we kind of live in a bubble. A lot of this stuff hasn't happened here, but it's happening in many, many nations around the world. Imagine this. If the government were in charge of the digital currency and the amount of control that they would have, it would be breathtaking. I mean, they could simply make your digital currency invalid if you owed taxes or were suspected of a crime. Hey, you can't purchase anything. And they could wipe out everyone's online accounts in the event of some kind of a bank holiday or economic collapse. And what if the grid went down in a long-term way? All that you had saved would be lost forever because the only way you can get to your money is digitally. And a short power outage would cripple communities. Every single purchase you make would leave a digital footprint, which that's what's happening now when you pay for it with a debit credit card. Huge amounts of data could be mined from it. And what about the possibility of online bank robberies or carried out by hackers? Hacking is becoming very common. And then the list of things, that could go wrong, it's really infinite. So, of course, and get this, they actually said that, of course, it all goes back to microchips. Sweden the article has actually said that. It said out of all the nations in the Western world, it seems that Sweden is most enthusiastic. Now they're talking about going cashless, and then they said, hey, it all goes back to one of the solutions, microchips. Sweden's one of the most enthusiastic nations about embedding microchips into humans for convenience purposes. Recently, a guy named Adam Palmer wrote about how thousands of Swedes were voluntarily getting the chip for their own convenience. The microchip bypasses the need for cash, tickets, train tickets, access cards, even social media. And in June of 2017, SJ Rail, the railway, the Swedish train operator said that they announced that 100 people were using microchips for train rides, obviously indicating that the rail system was already set up to handle that form of payment before anyone was ever microchipped. They set it up to handle RFID chips. And for that system, passengers with a microchip in their hand, they have their ticket loaded directly onto the microchip, an RFID chip, and the train conductor can read the chip with a smartphone to confirm payment. Done. No cash. Many readers expressed dismay, obviously, because a revulsion at the very idea of having a chip implanted in their bodies. And of course, I'm with them. I don't want anything to do with that. Not understanding the prophecies of the Bible, I'll never put a chip in my hand. But we're witnessing something important here. We're watching an alarming glimpse at the future. The end game of complete control truly seems to be in sight as more and more Swedes go cashless. But more than that, there are many nations around the world that are heading towards a cashless society. The United States is one of them. And think about it. In our own society, a lot of people, very, very seldom when I go out to a restaurant, something like that, do people pay with cash. Now, every once in a while, we normally keep cash on hand to tip, but I was in LaGuardia Airport in New York here recently, and I went to the Admirals Club. was sitting there, and somebody went up to the counter to pay for something, a sandwich or a Coke or something, and the guy whipped out some cash, and she said, "Oh, no, we don't take cash." He said, "You don't take, I've got, you know," she said, "No, we don't take cash. It's got to be debit card, credit card." And this was in American Airlines, the Admirals Club, here in the United States of America. So I've actually witnessed this. So, precursors to the mark of the beast. Remember, the mark of the beast, and everyone is going to be given their own unique identification number. And the Bible says that without that, once the Antichrist takes over, you're not going to be able to buy or sell. They're going to invalidate that. Well, this article was talking about that in Zero Hedge come out with the article about Sweden. They were actually talking about, hey, maybe microchips could be the answer for this. They're talking about controlling, tracking people, having digital footprints. And then the Telegraph, which ran an article that said major UK companies are preparing to microchip their employees. And I'm talking about thousands and thousands of people. British companies are planning to microchip some of their staff in order to boost security and to stop them accessing sensitive areas, different parts of the building. You don't want them to go in, they have no access without their chip in their hand. Biohacks is a Swedish company that provides human chip implants, and they told the Telegraph that it was in talks, this company was, Biohacks, with a number of UK companies, legal and financial firms, to implant their staff with devices. One prospective client, which can't be, they didn't want to name it, is a major financial service firm that has hundreds of thousands of employees. And this is becoming quite common. That's why I said, if you live here in the United States, you're kind of living in a bubble. The nightly news isn't going to talk about this a lot. But around the world, there are tens of thousands of people that have already been microchipped. And these companies have sensitive documents that they deal with all the time. And there was a guy named Johan Osterlund. He's the founder of Biohacks, and he said, and he's a former professional body piercer, and he said that the chips would allow them to set restrictions on, kind of give them like a security level of who could access these documents. And despite these concerns, Biohacks is moving full steam ahead because there are people that have concerns about hacking and different things, but Biohacks is moving full steam ahead with plans to open up an office in London because so many people in the UK are wanting to do this. Meanwhile, another chipping firm, Biotech, has already provided 150 implants to businesses and individuals. I mean, it's happening a lot of places, folks. So, the Bible says, now this prophecy written 2,000 years ago by John, Revelation chapter 13, said that in the future, towards the second coming, just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ, during the Great Tribulation, that the Antichrist would usurp authority over a system that would number everybody, and without that number, you would not be able to buy or sell, and they were going to use that to force individuals to comply to the edicts. They're going to economically sanction them to comply to the edicts of the one world government and the Antichrist. And was never possible until the time of the computer was invented and the internet was rolled out. But now it's very, very, very possible. There are nations that are doing it. Now, it's not the mark of the beast now, but it's the precursors to the mark of the beast that's already being set up. I have people call me all the time, and they'll say, oh, we're not in the end times. You know, you guys don't have it right. Come on, you know. And I ask them, I got to say, and they'll say, well, prove that we're in the end time. That's really what most people want. They want proof. Well, this is one of the things I go to. Now, I've got a library in there of things I could talk about. But at the end of the day, if you can look at this, a numbering system given to everyone where they would be able to economically sanction an individual and then say, well, we're not really in the end time. It was a prophecy given 2,000 years ago, and it just became... we just got the ability to do it within the last, several decades. But yet somebody would say we're not in the end time. I don't know. I mean, it's one of the clear proofs in my eyes. But one more thing I wanted to go through, very recognizable, or will be when I talk about it, was the Business Insider ran an article on Venezuela. And that Venezuela is rolling out a new ID. Now, remember, the mark of the beast is going to be used to economically sanction people, and it will punish them. If we were completely dependent upon a digital ID, and I invalidated your number, you had no access to any of your money, no gas, not buying groceries, couldn't pay your bills, that would be punishing you, economically sanctioning you to get you to bow down to my edicts if I was in control. That's what's going to happen. Well, think about this. These are precursors to the mark of the beast. The Business Insider ran an article. Venezuela is rolling out a new ID card manufactured in China that can track, reward, and punish their citizens. Venezuela is rolling out a new smart ID card known as the Fatherland Card, manufactured by Chinese telecom giant ZTE Corporation. The ID transmits data about cardholders to the government and their computer servers, and is increasingly linked to subsidized food, which those people need, health care, and other social programs that most Venezuelans need to survive. You know the situation in Venezuela, socialistic. They need these things to survive, and they're dependent upon this national ID number. So critics obviously are arguing the Fatherland Card, it illustrates how China, totally communistic, through their state-linked companies like ZTE, they export technological know-how that can help like-minded governments track, reward, and punish their citizens. Punish them for not complying to the edicts of the government. Does that sound familiar? John wrote 2,000 years ago, there will come a time when the Antichrist would assume control over a world government. Everybody would be given a number without which they would not be able to buy or sell, and we use that to economically sanction them to comply to his edicts. In April of I tell you what, I'm coming up on a break, so I don't want to break into this part because this is really, this brings it down to home. You say, well, it's not happening here in the United States. Like I said, we're kind of living in a bubble, folks. All around us. Do your research outside the United States. And you can't look at just what's going on here in the United States and say, well, we're not under a dictator and we're not this, that, and the other. Most nations are. Most nations are socialistic. That's why when we come and we say, hey, we don't want socialism here in America, look at how socialism's playing out in the nations around the world. It's not so good. And so when we get back, I'll go off into kind of what's happening in Venezuela, what's happened over the past few years, and it just might be shocking to some of you how these prophecy, the precursors, are coming to pass as we speak.
In 2018, we've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. Moving into 2019, we will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. Right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now to give your best end-of-the-year gift.
So what happened in Venezuela back in April of 2008, former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez dispatched Justice Ministry officials to visit counterparts in the Chinese technology hub of Shenzhen. And their mission, according to a member of the Venezuelan delegation, was to learn the workings of China's national ID card program. Chavez, a decade into, obviously, his self-styled socialist revolution, He wanted to help provide ID credentials to millions of Venezuelans who still lacked basic documentation that was needed for tasks like voting. And, he's saying that, well, I just want to provide this for you that don't have documentation. But do you think that was his real goal? I mean, come on. He's a socialist dictator. And they needed this documentation for voting or to open a bank account. And once this delegation was in Shenzhen in China, however, the Venezuelans realized a card could do more. These guys were sent there on a fact-finding mission. But once they got there, they realized that the card could do more than just identify the recipients. There at the headquarters of the Chinese telecom giant, ZTE Corporation, they learned how China was using smart cards and was developing a system that could help Beijing track social, political, and economic behavior. Everything about the person that had the card. The government knew every single thing about them. They were using vast databases to store information gathered with the cards. The government could monitor everything from a citizen's personal finances, which is none of the government's business, to their medical history, to their voting activity. Who did they vote for? If you didn't vote for the ones in power, things didn't bode too well for you. Well, Anthony DeQuinn, he was a technical advisor and a member of the Venezuelan delegation that went to China. And when he come back, he said, what we saw in China changed everything. Now think, this really happened. This is a true story. He said, what we saw in China changed everything. His initial amazement, he said, gradually turned to fear because he saw what was going on in China and he thought, well, hold on a minute. Chavez is wanting to do this in Venezuela. And he says it turned to fear that such a system could lead to abuses of privacy by the Venezuelan government. I mean, he's really thinking here. He was sent there on a fact-finding mission. Now he thought, now hold on a minute. This could happen in my own country. He said they were looking to have citizen control. And that's what numbering people is all about. You only number people so that you can control them. The government will sell it, and it's been sold around the world as, oh, well, you need governmental benefits and you need to open bank accounts and be able to vote, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, you only number people because you want to control them. So in the Venezuela situation, the following year, when DeQuinn raised concerns, he went back, he saw what China was doing, he went back, and he was among the delegations that was in the fact-finding mission. He went back to the Venezuelan government, and he said that he expressed his concern to them, and he said, hey, China is using this to control their people and to punish them if they don't vote right or if they don't bow down to the edicts of the government. And he expressed his concerns to the Venezuelan government. Now think about it like this. As a result of just expressing his concerns, he was detained, he was beaten, and he was extorted by intelligence agents. And they knocked several of his teeth out. They shoved a pistol in his mouth. They were trying to intimidate him, and they shoved a pistol in his mouth and knocked several of his teeth out and accused him of treasonous behavior. And, of course, it prompted him. Once he got away, he took him and his family, and they fled the country. But at the end of the day, you can see where you say, well, man, if something like that happened here in the United States, there'd be a civil war. We're kind of living in a bubble, like I said. And this is happening in different places around the world. Now, they're not knocking people's teeth out. I know that. But what I'm saying is that's the extent to where this thing can go. And China, totally communistic. North Korea, communistic. Venezuela, socialistic or i.e. communistic, same thing. And we're looking at, but yet, you know, and that's when I look at socialists that we would elect here in America, I kind of scratch my head on that one. But I'll stay off that one today. So, the fatherland card of their own, think about it. 10 years after the Shenzhen trip, Venezuela is rolling out a new smart card. That was about 10 years ago that happened to this guy. they're rolling out a new smart card known as the Fatherland card now. And the ID transmits data to the card, about the card holders, to the government servers, and it's increasingly linked to the government subsidies such as food, health care, other social programs that most Venezuelans need. The Fatherland card is troubling some of the citizens and human rights groups who believe it is a tool for Chavez's successor, President Maduro, to monitor the population, which is exactly what he wants to do, and allocate scarce resources to his loyalists. In other words, hey, the guys that are with me, the resources that we have, not very much of, I'm going to give it to these guys. The Fatherland card, many argue, it illustrates how China, through the state-linked company, ZTE, exports technological know-how that can help like-minded governments track, reward, and punish their citizens. The database, according to the employees of the card system, and screenshots of the user data, it stores these details, is detailed as individuals' birthdays, their family's information, their employment, their income, the property that they own, their medical history, state benefits that they've received, their presence on social media, membership of their political party. Are you the membership of the right political party? And whether the person voted or not, who they voted for. So at the end of the day, folks, it's all about control. Maduro, for the past year, urged citizens to sign up for the new card, and he called it essential to build the new Venezuela. As many as 18 million people have signed up for it. And Maduro actually said, with this card, we are going to be able to do everything from now on. It's absolute control. He's taking steps to force the card's adoption now. The government now says Venezuelans need to receive it, need to get the card in order to receive any public benefits, including medicine, pensions, their food baskets. You know, resources are very low in Venezuela right now. The government hands out food baskets. But if you want a food basket, you got to have your national ID card and subsidized fuel. And even, get this, they're down to the point where good behavior can earn citizens, and they track this stuff, good behavior can earn citizens discounts on their utilities or loans. Bad marks against them, they're banned from public transport, can't get on a public bus, and their kids are blocked from top schools. So the ZTE executives, they showed the Venezuelans smart cards embedded with, get this, radio frequency identification or RFID chips, and a technology that obviously enables monitors through radio waves to track the location and data. So what if a person doesn't want to comply? Remember, and this is one of the things I want to drive home today, because remember DeQuinn, after the original trip to 2008 to China, Venezuela then turned to Cuba, its closest ally, asked for the help creating its own RFID cards. The new goal was big data, DeQuinn said at that time. But by 2009, DeQuinn, he grew uneasy about the potential for abuses of citizens' privacy. He recognized it's going to happen here. So, like I said, he expressed those concerns, and you say, well, what's this got to do? Because this type of system was prophesied about 2,000 years ago. I mean, think about it. DeQuinn all he did was express his concerns to the officials. He didn't go on a big campaign and start a civil war. He just went in and he said, you know what, China's doing this. Look what they're doing. They control their people to the nth degree. They will punish their people by withholding benefits and things from them if they don't comply to the government of China. All DeQuinn did was express his concerns, and he expressed them to a guy, Vladimir Padrino, a general at the time, and now he's presently Venezuela's defense minister, and the defense ministry didn't respond to any of his phone calls after that, his emails, or any letters. However, on the morning of November 12th, 2009, he was at a local Caracas bakery, and 6 armed officials in uniforms in Venezuela, the National Intelligence Agency, they waited for him there, and they captured DeQuinn. They showed him photos of his daughter and forced him to drive east toward the town of Guterres. They threatened to take his daughter or to harm her. And they took him off a back road. DeQuinn said they beat him with pistols, forced a handgun in his mouth, dislodged several of his teeth, which to this day are still missing. And they said, "Why are you betraying the revolution?" They demanded $100,000 for him and his family to be safe and for them to release him. So what happens? DeQuinn, who says he had been saving for years to buy property, he went home, pulled the cash from a safe, delivered it to them, and that evening he booked a flight for himself, his wife, and their kids, and they flew to the United States, where today he's lived here since then, and he works as an information security consultant. So at the end of the day, look at how far it can go. And it actually can get worse than that. When the Antichrist takes control, it's going to get worse than that. But look, this prophecy was given 2,000 years ago. A numbering system, a global numbering system would be established, and they would be able to economically sanction individuals that without that they wouldn't be able to buy or sell. The fact of the matter is, folks, the Antichrist is going to be a control freak. The Bible says he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast, that they should be killed. I mean, he is going to want his edicts carried out, and it's going to result in the Great Tribulation. That's where we're headed. Again, remember, who's behind the Antichrist? Who's behind this world governing system? Satan. Satan's goal as the mastermind is going to be just like he did to Jesus. It will be for people on earth to bow their knee as a formal public acknowledgement of allegiance to him, but a pledge of allegiance to the Antichrist and his one world governing system will be to worship Satan. And so if you think about it, folks, and I wanted to go through this today because I know, we've talked about it here on the program, but I know most nations on the earth, there's only a handful of nations that are not under a fully compulsory national ID system as we speak. Many of them, you have to have a national ID to hold a job, for access to health care, for schooling for your children, to travel, for anything. You need it to function in society in that country. Well, there will come a time in the near future when the Antichrist will usurp authority over that system and use that to economically sanction individuals. There are two major moves on the earth to number every human being on the planet that doesn't have a national ID. ID 2020 and ID 40 by the World Bank. So if you think about it, these are precursors to the mark of the beast. Are we living in the end time? Absolutely. And this is one absolute way you can prove it.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.